Camille Perry, what a fun book you've written. But it was in an unfun time, which is what I loved about the book, is that it's a moment in time when what dogs meant to people and how people were disconnected from each other was a source of anguish and isolation and sadness. Your book, Social Animals, is mostly about this new pandemic puppy owners and dog parks. But for you, it was something much deeper, I think, no?
It was. Social Animals was born out of my experience of not wanting a dog and then getting a dog and what ensued as a result. The pandemic isn't noted in the book specifically, but I
Right.
wrote it during the pandemic, and it was very much drawing on the idea of loneliness and isolation that we were all experiencing at that time, and I think has carried over into present day too. I don't think it's a phenomenon that's been cured in any way. I
Right.
think a lot of us are still suffering from that in a lot of ways, but um, yeah, I did not want a dog. My wife really wanted a dog, but I worked from home and she worked in an office. And so my argument was always I would be the one taking care of the dog. And
Right.
it was a good argument until she
Right.
started working
Yeah.
from home during the pandemic. And then I had no argument left. So we did get a pandemic puppy. We got a Brussels Griffon who we named Pip. And I had been struggling to figure out what my next book was going to be at the time. I was working on something, it wasn't quite working. And once we started taking Pip to the local dog park, which was pretty much our only social life while we
Yes.
were living in
Yes.
Maryland, and we were living in Rockville, Maryland at the time, I immediately started taking notes because there were so many wonderful characters at the dog park, and you get so many different types of people. And immediately it struck me, I'm like, oh, the setting for my novel needs to be a dog park, of course.
But you, it's a dog park seen from the eyes of a non-dog person originally, and then you become the uber dog person who wants to learn everything and do everything correctly. And the details in the book about the kind of things that the dog park people are obsessed by and interested in, and items to buy and items not to buy and what to feed. But I think that this topic of isolation and what it was like during the pandemic, at least for me, not having lived in a city and therefore my isolated country life didn't actually change that much, but the fears surrounding it and the sadness and loneliness and kind of disconnection, you're right, it still is here, but you depict it in such a natural human kind of way. And I think it's really important that we be reminded of what a loss that was, especially to people younger, right? The
Oh,
school
sure.
kid age people all the way up to college age. And everyone, as you said, is still suffering from it and may never fully recover from that being cut off from each other.
Yeah, and the characters in the book are adults, and I find, pandemic aside, being an adult, it's hard to make new friends.
Very.
It's easier when you're younger
That's
and
right.
everyone's in the same, but once you are an adult, and especially if you maybe don't work at a place where you have a lot of coworkers, where you can
Right.
make friends, your coworkers become your friends, it can be really tough as an adult to
Yeah.
meet new people and make new friends. So I wanted to hit that a little bit in the novel too, with the character of June, especially. She's a regular at the dog park. She's married to this guy named Silas, whose her marriage is a little bit iffy, and she's at the dog park and she's surrounded by people. You're at a public place, but she still feels fundamentally
Yeah.
alone. She feels really
Hmm.
lonely. And you could certainly still feel alone surrounded by people if you're not actually connecting with those people.
Yeah. In fact, more alone, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And then you've got this dog, sometimes two dogs that are it. They are your it. And that's obviously a little dangerous.
Well, it's a mixed
So,
bag, right? It's so lovely to have a pet that you bond with
yeah.
that brings so much to your life. And that's wonderful. If it's the only source of
Right.
connection you have, that's when it can get problematic. Because
Yeah.
I do think we are social and humans are social animals,
Yes.
which
Yes.
means we need other humans. That's our nature.
Yeah. And I think you depict it really well, even with all their quirks and weirdness and peculiarities. They're charming and they mean something to each other, this dog park existence.
I tried. Yeah, I wanted three very different women who bump heads at first, and they're all kind of
Yes,
they all come to the park with secrets or ulterior motives, or there's an element of suspense in the book. But the heart of it is the friendships that form. But I wanted it to be like at first they weren't fast friends. Like at first, there's a lot of like stuff going on between
yeah,
these women, and they don't automatically just bond and become besties. And
which
I
is
knew that
good because we know people don't immediately like each other, and we women are really critical and picky, and we notice stuff and we get annoyed by stuff, or we make judgments about things that either do matter or don't matter, whether it's the
absolutely.
way someone cuts their hair or what their politics are. We are really judgy. We're trained to be judgy. So I liked the way you depicted them figuring each other out and then finding a common ground, I guess you could say.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
No, really, if they were just besties, immediately you go, oh, great, Reese Witherspoon will buy the book and make it into one of those really annoying movies. Sorry, not to out anybody, but it's better to have the Grinchy part of life because social animals don't fit together like Legos.
I
Their
appreciate
corners
that.
bang up against each other, and it's what's engaging about the book, as well as dialogue that illuminates that, I guess you could say. So let's go back to what you and your wife picked. I'm not guessing you were not the picker of what kind of puppy. So why did she want a Brussels Griffin? I'm asking because my sister and her husband are now on their third. Two of the three bought at a pet store. Oh yeah, with me as their sister and sister-in-law. What?
Oh,
You did
wow.
what? Yeah, two of them. The
Okay.
other one they
Mm.
got from a breeder out of a trailer somewhere. The dog doesn't even look much like a dog, much less a Brussels Griffin. So, like
Uh,
the most irresponsible kind of breeder is, oh boy. My sister doesn't listen to this show, so I'm not worried. But they adore the breed, and I thought it's because they look like her husband, really, with a beard and like a mush
does
face
he
and
frown? He's grump. Is he a
oh
grumpy
yeah,
guy?
and also he's got a flattened sort of face and hair that kind of looks like a Brussels Griffin. You don't look like one, so does your wife? I'm guessing not.
No, thankfully not. So I actually I played a huge role in deciding that was the breed that I wanted, which is
No
kind of
kidding.
shockingly. So what happened was my wife was really wearing me down, and I felt like we're gonna end up getting a dog, right? And she would send me links to different dogs and different dog breeds. I knew something of different dog breeds. I wasn't totally not
Right.
knowledgeable of it, but I had never seen a Brussels Griffon before. And the first time I saw him on Instagram, I was just like, what is that animal?
Really?
Yeah, I was just, you know how they say love at first sight when you meet
Yes.
a partner and you just automatically, I
Yeah.
looked at this thing and I started to laugh. It just brought joy to
Yeah.
my heart.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
started following these famous griffs on Instagram, which let it be said, this is not the way I recommend anyone to choose a dog breed for their home because it's not responsible. But my heart was captured by these crazy little clowns, and I did do research and understand that they are actually not a great breed for a first-time dog owner. They are a handful. They are very intelligent dogs, but sometimes they can be resistant to training. They're not
Yes.
exactly eager to please.
Correct.
They are self-important. They have their own idea of how things are going to do things. They're a big dog in a small package. So I knew all of this going in, but it was too late for me already.
I'll be darned.
I said, if we're going to have a dog in this house, it may as well be a dog that makes me smile and laugh so
Yeah.
that I will at least hopefully be patient with it when it misbehaves. And Pip is exactly what they described. She has all of those characteristics. I don't want to say a not well-behaved dog, but she is very much a griff in that she is a handful.
Well, so I thought maybe you'd seen the Jack Nicholson movie with the
I
adorable
did.
Brussels. Oh, but that wasn't, you weren't the person who got a Dalmatian because you saw 101 Dalmatians.
No, I had not remembered immediately that dog from the movie was a Brussels
Right.
Griffon, and then someone had said it to me, and I was like, oh, it had been many years since I'd seen that
Yes,
film,
sure.
so that wasn't part of. But people really remember that because whenever I say a Brussels Griffon, they're like, oh, like and as good as it
Yeah.
gets, and I'm
Yeah.
surprised what an imprint that left on people.
Enormously. But the doggy was a major part of the movie.
Yeah.
So when you say Pip is her own person, my sister's dogs aren't housebroken. One of
No, no,
them's
no.
10 years old. She is housebroken, I hope.
She immediately was housebroken. I
Yeah.
mean, I kid you not, this dog's a genius. She understands what she wants to understand very quickly. She was immediately housebroken, knew how to go to the bathroom outside, just she always knows. I swear she understands so many words. She really is
Hmm.
attuned to
Yeah.
our lives and understands. I swear she even understands time. If we forget by 1 minute that it's her dinner time, she starts to tell us that it's her dinner time. But no, we didn't have any trouble with housebreaking or anything like that. It's just that she decides what she wants to be good at and what she doesn't want to be good at. So she decided she didn't like the dirtiness of not being housebroken, so she goes outside.
Yeah. And also, it was obviously the way that you guys raised her in terms of being aware of her needs, whatever they were. I
Oh,
mean,
we
a
were
lot of it,
ridiculous. We sent her to puppy kindergarten. We sent her to puppy
yeah.
first grade.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
we were.
people in the book.
There's some satire to the book. I wanted it to be an affluent community specifically,
Yes.
and these people who have a certain amount of privilege to be able
Yeah.
to treat their dogs like children.
Yeah.
Um, but it's not mean-spirited in any way because I'm very much
No.
making fun of myself because I realize I have become that person that I never thought that I was going to become.
It's
So
so
that's where a
cute.
lot of humor comes from that.
It
Yeah.
does. And it is really funny. I picked out a passage for you to read because it gives a sense of the specificity of the book in terms of how people live with their dogs. And it's not a few people, it's a lot of people. And even people who can ill afford it are still going out and getting, oh, a better dog bed or one that has less wrinkles or whatever it might be. So set this scene up if you want, or just jump in, whichever you think is best.
Let me set it up just a bit. So this scene it's from Val's point of view, and Val is a private investigator, and she's been hired by June's husband Silas to spy on June because he suspects her of having an affair with someone at the dog park. And so Val is tracking June because she suspects she might be having an affair with Alex.
Right,
In this scene, Val sees June and her dog Willow, and she sees Alex and this new dog that she's never seen before that looks like it's Alex's new dog, which is a beagle. And what she does is she follows them all the way to the pet store.
right.
Now, Val also has Cash with her. So
Cash is a dog,
Cash is her Brussels Griffon,
right?
and she's trying to spy on them to try to get evidence of an affair, but meanwhile she's got Cash with her, so it's not an easy task. So here we go. On the bright side, Val wouldn't have to sneak Cash into PetSmart, as pets were not only allowed but encouraged to shop alongside their humans, free to choose their own chew toys and kibble or compare prices on the latest styles of onesies. But Val carried Cash in her arms anyway. You have to earn the right to walk freely on your leash, she said when Cash resisted. Last time they were here, Cash had dragged Val around the store, sniffing and inhaling every morsel on the floor, wiggling her ass at every person who walked by, and overall making a wild nuisance of herself. If Val set her on the ground now, there was no way she wouldn't blow up their spot. June and Alex went to the bedding section first. Val watched them, phone in hand with its camera at the ready. All she needed was to catch some intimate physical contact between June and Alex. Nothing crazy like them suddenly making out in the cat food aisle. One telling touch would be enough. Val captured a few shots of them laying out various poofs and pillow loungers for Alex's dog to try out, and Willow too, because who could stop her? It wasn't much, as evidence-wise, but at least beds were involved, which Val could maybe hard sell as lurid somehow. The couple who dog beds together, people beds together? It was a stretch, but Silas was getting antsy for some return on his investment, and Val wasn't about to lose this cash cow now. Not after all she'd invested. Her apartment was beginning to look like a canine boarding house, for Christ's sake. Alex decided on a shag fur donut cuddler, and Val chose to ignore how and why she knew what the F a donut cuddler was. Next, Alex and June proceeded to collars, harnesses, and leashes, which, if Val wanted to make an argument for lurid, what aisle had more sadomasochistic vibes than this one? She nudged her phone to keep it awake, but she was having a hard time jiggling it in one hand with Cash under her other arm, wiggling with all her might to escape. If only Val could stash her somewhere for a while to be hands-free. Oh my goodness! Up came a woman reaching for Cash without consent. What kind of pug mix is this? Is he a bug or a bull pug? Or wait, let me guess, a frug? A poxer? I don't see pugshind or pugalier, but maybe a pugawawa? Val resisted the urge to just give Cash over to this stupid woman and get back to work. Instead, she rebuffed her without an answer, turned a corner for better cover, and tried to shield Cash's non-pug, pug-like face from public view. An aisle away from where June and Alex were deliberating on retractable versus standard leash styles, Val forged a sightline between two extra-large packages of wee-wee pads. Bruce was the name Val heard when Alex commanded her dog to sit. And would you believe that son of a bitch just sat? Meanwhile, Cash was chewing a hole into Val's shirt sleeve in an attempt to free herself via a gnawed-off limb. Before Cash drew blood, Val grabbed some kind of hoof from a display shelf and shoved it into her mouth like a ball gag. Cash promptly spit it out onto the floor.
It's so great because it really captures all the specifics of the things that people buy, which if somebody was reading your book because it's also a mystery and fun and human bonding and didn't know about this dog stuff, they'd say, "What? What kind of donut?" And as you say in the book, it's really terrible she knew what that donut was. But you have this stuff in there, all these specifics that obviously came from your virginity as a dog owner, because people who've been doing this for years are like, we don't stop and think, oh yeah, what kind of leash? And by the way, no one should get a retractable leash. Just saying. Especially with small dogs, just putting in a little note about they should not exist. I've bought a few, but only to use them out in the woods with a dog who I can't trust to come back, which is a whole nother story than in the food aisle or on the sidewalk where they wrap around people. But the book is full of that kind of info and observation, but really the people who are owning the dogs and what drives them and what makes them happy or why they're sad to begin with is so much of a part of the book. And I think it comes from kindness on your part, seeing people's vulnerabilities and what are the holes in their hearts and how do dogs fill it and what else do they need as filler, right?
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. Yeah, I always feel like when I wrote this book, I set out to write a happy book about sad people.
Oh, interesting.
I wanted it to feel good to read it. I didn't want any, not a spoiler, but I didn't want any dogs to die in this book or to
Right.
suffer. And
Of course.
yeah, I wanted to put the people through a ringer a little bit, but I want to treat them all with kindness, even as I'm making jokes and
Yeah,
maybe being a little sarcastic. I'm glad that came through.
very much. I think that humor is, of course, a way to deflect deeper, darker emotions. And so it's great to do that. And then the reader can figure out if they want to let any of the more somber stuff seep through or just go on a lark with you on this sort
Yeah.
of merry ride. When you worked with the publisher, did they tell you, did they steer you towards or away anything? Or when you handed in the finished book, which you usually have to do in fiction, do they just say, well done? See you later after we get a cover? Which, by the way, it has a fabulous cover.
The
Very
cover is
Pip-like.
the cover
Yeah,
is very fun. The
it's
cover
really
is
good.
a long-haired Brussels Griffon, which are fun to look at. Um, I had written so many drafts of this book before I sold it to Putnam that it was a pretty clean manuscript that by the
Interesting.
time it was being edited by my editor. There were changes, of course, and she helped elevate it a bit, and she
Hmm.
brought in some new, fresh perspective, and of course, it definitely got tighter and better. But there were no real major changes. Fiddled a little bit with Silas's character, June's husband. We worked a little bit on his likability or not likability. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to spoil anything for
Right. Well,
readers.
was he less likable in your first version, and then she said, let's not make him such a heavy?
What's so funny, if anyone who's ever had people read books and give feedback, my first readers all said Silas is too much of a villain. He's too villain-like. We need to make him a little bit more well-rounded. And so I souped up Silas a little bit and made him a little more well-rounded. And then my editor said, we need to make Silas more of a villain. I think he's too much of a nice guy. And so then I was like, oh God, I got to go back. But I do think it's a matter of degree. And I do think I finally did get the right balance, which I hadn't had on the first try. So
And that's why I ask, because I think it's interesting for people that are read a lot. I don't know how many people are listening that are writing or in the process of writing or have already written something, but how you get to a finished product that works, because the tone of a book like this is so important, and getting it right so it isn't bitchy and mean spirited, but it can be snarky and sarcastic with kindness. That's a tricky balance. And I don't know, what do you think in the end of the day about having people read your book and give feedback? I personally learned years ago, worst idea ever. Everyone's got an opinion like you know what's. And who says they have any idea what the marketplace wants right now? How much softness or toughness a book should have. And it can
Yeah.
take years of your life. If you got to change a major character who is a guy mistrusting his wife and hiring a private eye, that's already a guy that we don't like him so much from that point of view, because can he just talk to her and say, "Hun, I guess things aren't as good as I thought. Are you stooping anybody?" Obviously, that's one way of handling it, but you already had built in the fact that there's something about that
Yeah.
behavior or that choice that makes somebody like, "Ooh, that's harsh." But you didn't. And yet, what do you think about the long periods of time that you spent following breadcrumbs down the wrong trail?
Well, I didn't follow too many breadcrumbs. It's not my first rodeo. I've got two previous books, so
Yeah,
I think I've gotten to the point where I've developed my craft enough that I do have a certain sense of confidence.
yeah,
And I don't show anyone anything too early because if it's too early in the process, I'm not sure yet. And that's when too many cooks could spoil the broth because, like you said,
yep,
everyone has their own idea. So I like to really do my best version of what I can do and to the limit of what I think is to my ability and what I think is
right,
right. And then I bring in just a few trusted readers, just like a very few people who I know are going to tell me the truth, who have my best intentions in mind, and who are good readers and have a
yes,
sense of how to feedback. So that's a rare. There's three people
yeah.
in my life, one of whom is my wife, that I can do that with.
Wow,
So
that's really lucky.
yeah.
Hang
It's a
on to
lot to
her.
ask. It's a lot
It
to ask.
is. It
It's a big
is.
ask because of course if she comes back, she will tell me the truth if she doesn't think something's working, and I will take a day to sulk. So
Well, if it's only a day, then it's a good marriage. But I would
I've
say,
yeah,
is
one
she
day.
is she in the business of creativity or media or writing things?
Not at all. She's a lawyer, but she reads more than anyone I've ever met, and she's a great
Oh,
reader. She's a great
oh,
reader. Yeah, she
nice.
reads everything. Everything. Puts me to shame when it comes to reading her, the way she reads. Yeah.
And when you're writing, do you try not to read anything else that might affect you or influence you?
I read very specifically for
Hmm.
inspiration, things
Hmm.
that might be models, things that I could look to for, oh, how did an author do that? For writing this book, I had never written a book that had any element of suspense in it before.
Hmm.
So I read a lot of, and I wouldn't call this a suspense novel, but there is that element in there. So I
Sure.
read a lot of suspense books,
Oh, good
and
for you.
yeah, I really wanted to just across the board. I was reading Highsmith, I was reading Ivanovich, I read Le Carre, I was reading the Killing Eve books, just whatever popped into my head. And I thought, oh, that would be nice to have the knowledge of that.
That was smart because they weren't social animals kind of stories, but they did have their own versions of suspense or weirdness in the case of Killing Eve, which I somehow didn't even know had been a book. Bad me.
A lot of people don't know that.
Ah.
I dig.
The job you've done here is amazing. I, in a way, hope that people want a Brussels Griffin, but then again, I hope they don't. So I hope that listening to this, anyone who reads about this adorable character who is based on Pip, whose name is Cash, he's a great little dog, or she is. Is she a she in the book? I can't
She
remember.
is a she.
She's a
Yeah.
she, just like Pip is. She really helps the book along as a kind of a character who's always there for us in one form or another, because she's always there for the protagonist. I think you've done an amazing job, and I asked if people had chimed in about it because it seems to come very much from you, like this one voice, this one vision, this I wasn't a dog person and now I'm all in with all four paws kind of thing.
It's very personal for me, this book. Yeah,
Yeah,
I put a lot of my own heart in there.
yeah,
And it's good to laugh at yourself sometimes too, when you catch yourself in funny behaviors.
yes.
So
And reflects back on all of us. Camille Perry, you've done an amazing job of social animals. Going to give a lot of joy to a lot of people, those with and without dogs, about whom they are or are not obsessed. Congratulations, and I look forward to lots of people reading it.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this conversation.
Take care.
Take care.